Now we go to part 2, second chapter. That was what is called an introduction. First you give an introduction, then you go into your main topic. So chapter 2, defining Bhakti. I just gave the general definition. Now in this Narada Bhakti Sutras, Narada expands. Tal lakshanani vachyante nana mata vedat. Narada says, the characteristics of bhakti I will now enunciate according to the differences of various authorized opinions. So Narada, he's an authority. But there are other Vedic authorities on the topic of bhakti, which Narada recognizes. He's going to now list some of them. Pujadish Vanurageti Parasharaya. The son of Parashara Muni, Vyasadeva, he says that bhakti is fond attachment for worshiping the Lord in various ways. So we do that. After the lecture, we will have the arti. That's one kind of worship. In the Bhakti Marg, the path of bhakti, there are 64 items which comprise worship of the Lord. It's a very detailed process. 64 different items. Not just the arti, but there are 64 items that the Lord can be worshipped. Different temples around the world, they have a very elaborate form of worship of the Lord. Some of them even do all the 64 items. So Vyasadeva says, what is bhakti? Worshipping the Lord. Katadish iti Garga. Garga Muni says that bhakti is fondness for narrations about the Lord, by the Lord, and so on. I agree with Garga Muni. This would be my viewpoint. Yes. Who is Garga Muni? Garga Muni was the family priest of the Yadu dynasty. When it was time for Krishna and Balaram to have their name-giving ceremony, Garga Muni arrived in Vrindavan, and at the request of Nanda Maharaj, Garga Muni performed this name-giving ceremony, Namakarana, very secretly. Nanda was afraid of Kamsa, so he did not want to create a disturbance by having a big function. But still he wanted the Vedic ceremony to be performed. So he begged Garga Muni, let us do it privately in the cowshed. So Garga Muni did that. He gave 3 meanings of Krishna's elder brother, Balaram. Everybody say. So Balaram, Sankarshan, Baladev, like that. And then also Garga Muni explained different aspects of Krishna and how he would enter into the lives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. One of the things Garga Muni said at that time, he said that anyone who is attached to your son will become very much successful and will be protected. So Garga Muni says, bhakti is fondness for narrations about the Lord. So Srimad Bhagavatam is all the different narrations about Krishna and all of his avatars, different avatars. Keshavadrita Meena Sharira, Keshavadrita Kachaparupa, Keshavadrita Varaha Rupa, Keshavadrita Nrsinga Rupa, Keshavadrita Parusharam Rupa, Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa, Keshavadrita Nrsinga Rupa, Keshavadrita. So there are so many avatars explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Canto 10, 90 chapters describes the Krishna pastimes. Krishna performs his pastimes, Mathura, Vrindavan, Dwaraka. These are the three places. So that's explained in the 10th. But in the first 9 cantos, so many other of Krishna's avatars are explained. So if you have fondness for hearing about these various narrations, Gargamuni says that is bhakti. Or narrations by the Lord. So what is that? Bhagavad Gita. So many people, they have fondness for reading Bhagavad Gita. I know people, they must read Bhagavad Gita every day for some time. So they fulfill Gargamuni's definition, fondness for hearing narrations by the Lord. Atmaratya Virodhineti Shandilya. Another great sage, Shandilya, says, bhakti results in freedom from obstruction to taking pleasure in relation with the Supreme Soul. So yes, when you establish a loving relationship with God, you derive pleasure from that. Krishna reciprocates, as we learn in the Bhagavad Gita. Ye yata mang prapajante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham mamuvatmanuvartante manusya partha sarvasha. Krishna says, as you surrender to me, I reciprocate. This is an important point. This bhakti, or as we're hearing the various definitions, it's not one way. It's not a one-sided relationship. Nobody is satisfied with a one-sided relationship. Everybody wants a relationship where there is give and take, reciprocation. So in the same way, when you establish your relationship with God, it's give and take. So if you render service to Krishna, you get reciprocation from Krishna. That reciprocation is your pleasure, is your happiness. I'll give you a practical example. Most of you have raised families. So you raised children. When you first got married, you had no children. But you wanted to increase your happiness, so you raised some children. And all you wanted out of raising children is some reciprocation. That's all. Some loving reciprocation. Unlike last night. Last night we were hearing about Gandhari chastising Duryodhana. So Duryodhana was the kind of son, no reciprocation. Just taking, giving no satisfaction. And just before the battle of Kurukshetra, Gandhari came and chastised Duryodhana. She told on his face that you are full of lust, full of avarice, and you should give the Pandavas their rightful share of the kingdom. She told him. She knew who her son was. She may have kept herself blind, but she was not blind. She knew everything. Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, he also knew, but he was bound by affection and could not properly chastise Duryodhana or check him although he was warned and told, check your son now before it's too late. But Dhritarashtra, out of false attachment, never tried to change Duryodhana or check him. But Gandhari, at this moment, she also chastised Dhritarashtra. It's your fault that we are in this position. And she tried sweetly to instruct Duryodhana, but he could not hear. So, you want reciprocate. That's all you want. Some kind of reciprocation. So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yes, I respond to my devotees as they surrender to me. So Shandilya says, when you're free from any kind of obstruction, when there are no impediments to having a loving relationship with God, that is bhakti. Narada, however, says, so he's given all these other opinions. Narada says, bhakti means having all of one's activities offered to the Supreme Lord, which is exactly what I said in part 1. That was Narada's definition in part 1. With your senses, you serve the master of the senses, Krishna. Here he says, all of your activities offered to the Supreme Lord. Same thing Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yaj johosi dadasi yat tapasyasya kaunteya, tat karushva mad arpanam. There's the line. Tat karushva mad arpanam. Same thing. Whatever you do it for me. That is another simple definition of what is bhakti. Whatever activity you do it for Krishna. In the bhakti marg, we eat. You have to eat. But you don't just cook and eat. You cook, you offer to Krishna. Then Krishna blesses the food, then you take prasad. It's not prasad until it is offered. And the reciprocation is, when you have prasad, it takes on a whole different texture, a whole different. I've told the story many, many times. My first coming to the temple in New York in 1973, getting Mahaprasad. It was such an outstanding experience. I jumped up, give me more, give me more. And they told me, you got to come back tomorrow. So I started coming to the temple just for that prasad. And those who know me, for over 20 years, I've been doing preaching in Indian people's homes. Why? Prasad. I go to so many peoples all over the world. Wherever I go, there are Indian homes. They feed me. Sab theek, Baba. Because it's prasad. It's not ordinary food. So Narada says, so whether it's cooking, you like to dance, dance for Krishna. You like music. Last Sunday at the Rath Yatra, I had my guitar. I was singing for Krishna. You where's, he's not here today, Mr. Raghunandan, Mr. Gandharva. He likes to sing for Krishna. So any activity, say you like to make money, good. Make money, let's build the new temple. All in favor, say Haribol. Yes. You can't build a new temple out of, nobody's going to, let there be a temple. No. We're not that powerful. We need the mullah. So, money is good if it is used for Krishna. Tat karushva mad arpanam. Whatever you do, offer it to me. And Narada adds, Bhakti means feeling extreme distress in not serving the Lord. That's a negative definition. In other words, somebody who is on the bhakti path is always asking him or herself, am I engaged in Krishna's service or not? They're very much in anxiety. Don't want to waste any time. Parikshit Maharaj. When Parikshit had decided to fast for 7 days and 7 nights, one of the things he told the sages just before Shukadev arrived, Parikshit said, I don't want a moment to be wasted. I only have 7 days, 7 nights left. I don't want to waste a single, that's called avyarta kalatvam. Very much concerning that not any moment is wasted. It must be utilized in doing some kind of activity for Krishna. But then Narada concludes, actually, bhakti, in fact, is correctly described by all of these definitions. So, he's not saying any of them are wrong. He's saying, yes, each one of them is correct. Then Narada now all of a sudden shifts, for some reason, to a whole nother gear. He says, the gopis of Vraja are an example of ultimate bhakti. So Narada, he himself is a great bhakta. But he knows, nobody is better devotee than those gopis of Vrindavan. Because as Radharani, she is the leader of the gopis. And all the other gopis are her servants and expansions. So there is this statement by Radharani. She says that sometimes being attached to Krishna is very painful. She says, and even if I try to give up Krishna, I can't. That is the ultimate stage of bhakti. For a person like me, forgetting Krishna any moment is easy. But for Radharani, even if she tried to give up Krishna, she can't. So that's why she has that name, Radha. Everybody say. That name, Radha, is there the night of the rasa dance. Because Krishna left the other gopis in the beginning of the rasa dance just to be alone with Radha. So the other gopis said, that gopi must have worshipped Krishna better than us. If Krishna left us just to be with her, they concluded, then she must be the topmost. Therefore, Radha. Once again, means the best. The person who worships Krishna the best. Now, the next statement by Narada is a warning that we cannot imitate the gopis. The gopis, they are not in the consciousness that Krishna is God. They don't think of Krishna as God. Just like another one of the topmost gopis, Yashoda Devi, Krishna's mother. She does not think that Krishna is God. She thinks Krishna is my son only. But her love for Krishna, unsurpassed. So, the gopis, you see, Radha Raman Bhagavan Ki Jai. The gopis, Radharani, Yashoda, they do not see the opulence and majesty of Krishna as God as you would if you were in Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and you were worshiping Narayan, can everybody say? In the Vaikuntha, there is no possibility of not understanding that Narayan is God. That understanding is very settled and clear. Whereas in Vrindavan, that kind of majestic, opulent understanding of God is vacant, which allows for more intimacy. So Narada here warns that you cannot imitate the topmost platform of bhakti of Radha, the gopis, Yashoda. Therefore, it is very important that we learn and understand and know all the opulences of God. We cannot automatically or artificially jump. No. It is our business as bhaktas to categorically study and know all the opulences of Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya explains that there are 64 specific opulences of Krishna. So an aspiring devotee learns those opulences and thinks about them. Not that I can just artificially jump. Next thing Narada says, real bhakti is superior to karma, jnana, and yoga. This karma, jnana, and yoga are Vedic means for elevation. But Narada says real bhakti is actually superior to all these other methods. Same thing is there in Bhagavad Gita. And another class someday I will give. Today I did the research. All the verses in Bhagavad Gita where bhakti is mentioned. So many verses. And you will find the same conclusion, that superior to karma, jnana, yoga is bhakti. Which is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you want to see me? Bhakti. You want to understand me? Bhakti. You want to come to me? Bhakti. There is, now in this discussion, there is no alternative. This is what Krishna himself says. Now, this next statement by Narada is something I also learned from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first shloka I quoted, which I usually begin my lectures. Trinadapi sunichena toradiva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. What does Narada say here? The Supreme Lord is fond of those who are humble and dislikes those who are proud. You all know the classic story from Mahabharata. Duryodhana prepared a sumptuous feast for Krishna. But Krishna would not go to Duryodhana's dinner. Instead, he went to Vidura's house, who was a Shudra, and all he had was simple rice, dal, chapati. Why did Krishna just accept the simple? Because Vidura was humble. Vidura was a devotee. Duryodhana, no. Duryodhana was all about show, control, manipulation. There was no bhakti there. And we learned that from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Krishna says, you can offer me even a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water. I will accept. What's the real thing? Several times in that verse, bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. That's what Krishna accepts. All of us have to know that at every moment. Krishna is not interested in anything other than my loving, and he says here, humble servant. Narada finishes this chapter. Some say that knowledge alone is the means for developing bhakti. Others consider bhakti and knowledge independent. But this son of Brahma, Narada, says, bhakti is its own fruit. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, this question is answered a different way. That knowledge, detachment, they automatically come from bhakti. So the main thing is to render bhakti. So Narada concludes, seekers of eternal liberation should accept bhakti as their only path. Everyone chant the Mahamantra.